described as a great daughter and friend, and she dedicated her life to teaching elementary schoolers, which has got to be a tough job. Bless all of you teachers. So at the age of 33, Rachael was living with her parents, Lisa and Joe, in Pennsylvania. She was extremely close with her mom, Lisa, and I will be referencing her. She had an interview with this woman named Erin Mority, and I will be quoting that interview quite a bit in this video. So I just want you to know when I mention Erin, that's the interviewer, and Lisa, Rachel's mom, is the interviewee, I guess. So Lisa said that her daughter would come in every single night and sit by her bed and give her like a synopsis of the whole day, and she just loved that. So I know you may have wondered, why is this 33-year-old teacher living at home with her parents? Well, she was in the process of trying to put her life back together. She had had a couple of difficult years, and I'm about to tell you why. She had previously been engaged to a man named Frank. Frank's last name is Katropa, and when they started dating, they were like their town's it couple. He was the son of a retired police officer. He was building this empire in like trucking and cable and energy. He had his hands in a lot of pies, and he was so successful, Frank, that a local online magazine like dubbed him the Wolf of, I think it's Aliquippa. I'm sure I said that wrong. Aliquippa. Many vowels. So Rachael is this teacher with this soft heart who really liked to help all of her students, but especially the troubled ones. And Frank is like this Wolf of Wall Street kind of guy. So after 5 years of dating, Rachael really wants Frank to propose, and she and her mom are kind of putting little bugs in Frank's ear, and he decides, okay, I'm gonna do it. And the two of them went to Paris, and he proposed, and it was a beautiful moment. I've seen pictures, they're like kissing in front of the Eiffel Tower, which I cannot, that is so, just little hearts in my eyes, just put them right there. So Lisa said Rachael was so excited when she called her mom. Lisa kind of laughed and said I wasn't sure if she was marrying him or the ring. It was this beautiful 6-carat oval. It was gorgeous. So it was this magical time in Rachael's life. She's engaged to this man that she loves. They've been in this long-term relationship. This is what she wants. This is where she sees her life going. But things really start to kind of take a turn at this point. The wedding planning starts, and at first Frank is super involved. He wants to pick the church, he wants to pick the flowers, help pick out the cake, help organize everything, which I imagine is quite different than a lot of wedding planning. I feel like if I was planning a wedding with Sean, he'd be like, do whatever you want, I don't care. But I think it's kind of cute that Frank got involved. Tell me what you think down below. If you're married, did your spouse care at all, or did they help, or I don't know. I thought it was cute. So Lisa got Rachael her dream dress, and Rachael had picked out the perfect shoes, like they were ready. But then the topic of a prenup comes up. Frank obviously has this sort of empire. He's pretty wealthy. He has all this stuff going for him. And we all know teachers don't make what they should make, right? Rachael was okay with signing it. She loved she was in it for his money, because she wasn't. But her parents were not okay with her signing this. Marriage was supposed to be for life. They shouldn't be planning a potential divorce, is what they said. And Frank says that is when the wedding planning just stopped. Now, they didn't break up per se, but they were no longer engaged. And I imagine that this created some friction, not only between Frank and her family, but also between her and Frank. Frank said that he was pretty sure some of her family did not want her to continue this relationship with him, but she did. She still came around, and she started to kind of hide their relationship. Not necessarily lie about it, but just kind of mislead people. And Frank didn't want to be like her secret. It wasn't cool with him. So he starts to kind of pull away from this. He's like, well, if we can't get married, like, what are we doing? And the more Frank pulls away, the more Rachael kind of grabs on. She gets really jealous, and she's really kind of possessive over this man that she can't marry. On Super Bowl weekend in 2016, Frank was at the game with some of his friends, and there happened to be some girls in tow. Frank said yes, there were girls on the trip, and Rachael was extremely upset. We were still dating, and it was one of those really awkward situations, because they were kind of hiding that they were dating, and he was kind of like trying to not hit on these girls, but not be obvious about it, and his friends were kind of razzing him, but he really couldn't say, oh, well, I'm still with Rachael, because they were kind of keeping it quiet. So not long after this Super Bowl weekend, Frank says Rachael starts to get, like, paranoid. She starts to express to him that people are bothering her. She never would really give him, like, specific names, but one of the people that she said was, like, following her and sending her disturbing messages and things like that. She kind of focused on the police department. And it turns out that Rachael did have this good reason to be nervous, but Frank didn't know about it yet. She had a secret, and it was a secret that only a couple of people knew. And one of them was her friend, Jen Glovin. Jen said that when Rachael told her about this secret, she grabbed her hand and she was just crying, and she was saying, please, please, please don't tell anybody. Please don't tell anybody. You have to promise that you will not tell. And Jen, being a good friend, kept Rachael's secret. Well, until about 10 months after Rachael and Frank had called off their engagement. It was time for the final chapter in their relationship to be written. Every year, Frank throws himself a big birthday party at a bar in their downtown area. And Rachael was there to help him celebrate. Jen and her boyfriend Matt had not seen Rachael in months, and they said that she just really seemed kind of off. She did not seem like herself at all. She was withdrawn and jumpy and kind of snippy. So Jen goes over to her friend and she's like, Rachael, what's wrong? Like, something's going on. I don't know what it is, but you're just doing something that's not good for you, and I'm worried. And Rachael loses it. Now, I wasn't there, so I didn't see it, but people said she got extremely angry at she doesn't retaliate by hitting Rachael back. She retaliates by telling Frank Rachael's big secret. She just starts crying and she says, ask her what she was doing in the car with some kid at night. And what Jen tells Frank is that nearly a year earlier, on that same weekend that he was away with other women at that Super Bowl party thing, Rachael had done something that would put her job and her relationship with Frank in jeopardy. She recalls Rachael coming to her that Super Bowl weekend in tears. Jen says that Rachael told her that there was an incident involving her and, at the time, 17-year-old high school football star Sheldon Jeter. Rachael first met Sheldon years ago when she was a substitute teacher at his elementary school, and the two of them had recently connected. Jen says she told me that at like 12 o'clock at night, he was messaging her on Facebook, and he said he needed someone to talk to, and that Rachael said, okay, I will come and I will meet you. They were in the parking lot at the Circle K, according to Jen, and Sheldon had gotten into Rachael's car and he was on the passenger side, and they were just sitting there talking. And then Rachael told her that a police officer had pulled up and just wanted to check on them. You know, they're this car sitting there at night. And she said, everything is fine, officer, we're just talking. And that was it. And when Rachael was telling Jen about this, Jen was like, okay, I love you, you're my best friend, right? But I have to ask you 2 questions, which is the same thing I would have asked my best friend. And she said, please don't lie to me. Were you doing drugs with this kid in this car? And she said, no, it wasn't anything like that, it wasn't. And I said, okay, I believe you. Now, I don't know if Rachael had a drug thing. I never found anything like that. I'm not saying that, but her best friend is asking, so. And Jen says, okay, my second question is, were you doing something with him? You know, like, are you cheating on Frank? And Rachael replied, no. And Jen says, okay, I believe you. But Jen later says, in my gut and in my heart, I knew she was lying. Rachael insisted that this encounter with Sheldon Jeter was completely innocent. She was just trying to help this kid who needed help. And that's what she told Frank, and Frank believed her at first. Jen says Rachael basically told Frankie that myself and Matt were spreading rumors about her, saying she's on drugs and saying, you know, she's sleeping around with people around town. And after that night, Frankie and Rachael did not speak with us for an entire year. Now, Frank stood by Rachael. He believed what she said, but he couldn't let it go. And I fact-checked this a couple of times, but around a year later, he decides he has to know more about what happened that night, which, in my opinion, means it's been festering like this whole time. So he goes to the police department and he asks Assistant Police Chief Joe Percival if there's an incident report, because the officer did stop. But, you know, he may not have filled out a report because they said everything was fine. So Assistant Chief Joe says, Frank told me that Rachael was trying to get back with him, and he just wanted to know if it was true or what was true, because he didn't want to look stupid. I understand that, but reports like this are not, like, immediately made available to the public. They don't just, like, hand them over. You have to make, like, a written request to obtain a copy, even if it was nothing. went so people didn't see you. And the police officer said the windows were steamed up, which made them believe that the vehicle had been parked there for quite some time. And the passenger seat was fully reclined. The report states that Rachael told police that Sheldon was once a student of hers and that he was now a friend, and they were just talking. But it also says she did not want her fiance to know because he would get very angry with her. Frank was allowed to take a copy of that report home. And not long after that, someone used it to strike a devastating blow to Rachael DelTondo's reputation. So, all of this information, like this entire report, was anonymously emailed to the school where Rachael worked. And not just the school board, the local media outlets, the mayor, and a ton of Rachel's friends and family also received this report. I mean, I don't really know how anonymous it is, but whatever, Frank. At this time, Rachael is placed on administrative suspension with pay after her school begins an investigation against her and her actions. The school claims that Sheldon was never a student with them, and her family believes she was really just trying to help this kid out and that she did nothing wrong. However, Sheldon's attorney, Michael Scandola, states that the relationship had been more than a friendship and that it had been going on for quite some time. Family members of Sheldon started noticing he was getting, expensive gifts, and they suspected that they could be from an older woman. He got this really expensive watch for Christmas, and he would not tell people who it was from. However, the age of consent in Pennsylvania is 16, and she was not his teacher at the time. Pennsylvania State Police Beaver Barracks in Brighton Township opened an investigation into the leak of this really sensitive information. It had her social security number, a lot of information. State police out of Harrisburg also launched an investigation into this leak. Rachael was completely cooperative with the police, and she told them that since the leak, she had been getting death threats and she feared for her life. There were reports that state that she believed she was being followed by the Alquippa Police Department, but there's no corroborating evidence of this. I don't have any proof to give you. Frank denied being the one that sent this information, but I have a hard time believing that, as you may be able to tell. Rachael, understandably, took this whole thing really difficultly. Now, don't get me wrong. I feel for you. Girl, but you cannot be doing stuff like this. You're a teacher. You can't be in a car with a kid at 2 a.m. If he needs help, you have to do it the proper way. You can't just be chilling. You can't. No victim blaming. By December of 2017, Rachael has no job. She feels like she's been abandoned by all of her friends, and she is extremely embarrassed. She feels like the town pariah. She no longer talks to Frank. Many of her friends and the people in the area wanted nothing to do with her, and she had distanced herself from Sheldon Jeter. She had really become socially isolated. Lisa said Frankie made people take sides, and so all of Rachel's friends just kind of went away. In the months that followed, she really was trying to put her life back together. She was focused, and it seemed to be working. By the spring of 2018, she was dating 32-year-old Rashawn Bolton. Little twist in that is that Rashawn is Sheldon Jeter's older half-brother. But she liked Rashawn because he made her feel really safe and secure. And when she wasn't with Rashawn, she was spending time with, and I found this odd, but y'all tell me what you think, another high school student, 17-year-old Lauren Watkins. Rachel is like family to me. And that interviewer, Aaron, asked her, but some people would say, you're a teenager, like, what did you do have in common? Rachel's in her early 30s. And Lauren said she helped me with everything. She took hours out of her day to help me with my college resumes. She was just the best friend that anyone could have. So, Lisa is concerned about this age difference, and she tells Rachel this. And she remembers Rachel's therapist told her to stay away from Lauren. She's too young, but Rachel didn't want to hurt Lauren's feelings, so they kept hanging out. So that brings us to May 13th, 2018. It was Mother's Day, and Rachel's boyfriend, Rashawn, is out of town, and Rachel decides she's going to hang out with Lauren. Lauren said they drove around, they listened to some music, they were talking, and while they were driving, they passed a car full of people. And one of those people was Sheldon Jeter. And Aaron, the interviewer, asked, well, did he see you? Lauren replies, he did. He messaged me on Facebook and was like, did I just pass you guys? And I responded, yeah. And then he asks, well, what are you guys doing? And Lauren says at this point, she stops answering him. The two of them go back to Rachel's house because Rachel was cold and she wanted to get a sweatshirt. And then they head out to go to Hank's for some ice cream. Rachel tells her mom where they're going, and on the way, they pick up 25-year-old Tyree Jeter, who is another half-brother of Sheldon. In the hour leading up to Rachel's death, search warrant applications indicate that Sheldon was texting his half-brother Tyree, and the text suggests that Sheldon may have been tracking where Rachel was at. The texts read, is y'all there already? I got left, huh? Who y'all all with? Is Hank's closed? Question mark. Aaron says Sheldon knew exactly where Rachel was that night. He knew, and he knew what time she was going to be home, didn't he? Sheldon Jeter's attorney, Michael, says, I don't think that's true. I don't think. How would he know what time they're going to be home? He questioned. Lauren says she dropped Rachel off and waited until her friend reached the side door of her house, opened it, and started to go in before she drove away. Lauren says, I don't leave until anyone gets to their door, especially her. I always check my surroundings with her. There was nothing unusual, no unusual car, no person anywhere in sight. So Aaron asks, is there any chance that Rachel did try to come in this side door? And Joe DelTondo says, I think I would have heard it. I was right there in the chair where I always am. Right by the door. So, less than 4 minutes after Lauren says she dropped Rachel off, Rachel winds up dead. She is not by the side of her house, but all the way at the foot of her driveway. Rachel's parents believe that an obsessed Sheldon Jeter killed her. Lisa says, that night, I knew it was him. Aaron wants to know, do you believe Sheldon was upset enough to hurt Rachel, to have been involved in her murder? And his uncle says, why would he be that upset? It was just a woman. He got caught up in it, and that's it. What would he gain from killing her? And Michael insists that his nephew was home that night with his grandparents where he lived. Michael said he was home with my dad because he took care of my dad at the night time. Sheldon's attorney says there's no evidence that ties him to the crime. If you look at the way this girl was shot, and if you look at the close range that she was shot, this was somebody who was comfortable with a gun. Someone who did not also states that Sheldon failed to display any emotion when he was informed of Rachel's death. And Michael says it's absolutely untrue. Sheldon Jeter was shocked. He was in shock. His uncle said, yeah, he felt bad. Everybody that heard about it felt bad. Not long after Rachel's death, Lauren Watkins told 48 Hours that she couldn't imagine Sheldon was capable of committing murder. And she said that she had never once heard Rachel say that she was afraid of him. Aaron wants to know if Rachel ever indicated to Lauren that Sheldon was obsessed with her or wanted to be with her. And Lauren responds, no. Aaron says, you have no sense of that at all. Lauren responds, no. For nearly 2 years, Michael Moreland says Sheldon lived under a shadow of suspicion and he just tried to go on with his life. He was working, he worked doubles, he got involved in the church, he dedicated his life to Christ. And then, seemingly out of the blue, a news report releases an Aliquippa man was a key figure in the unsolved murder of a woman, is now charged in another homicide. On May 17th, 2020, almost 2 years to the day that Rachel was killed, Sheldon Jeter was arrested and charged for a different murder. The victim in this case, Tyreek Puke, was reportedly like a brother to Jeter. In fact, he did live on and off with Sheldon and his family. His uncle Michael says, we raised this kid. He wasn't biological, but he's relative enough through the love we have for him. Michael Moreland, the uncle, said he was with Tyreek and Jeter just hours before the murder, and they were out getting, of all things, ice cream from Hank's. And there was a report that the two had argued earlier in the day, but Michael says it wasn't true. We were happy. There was no fussing. There was no argument. Sheldon ran through the timeline and he told police that he saw his friend late that night when Tyreek left the house for work. He left on foot, and that's the last time Sheldon saw him, according to Sheldon. But at 11:10 p.m., a surveillance camera across the street captured Sheldon and Tyreek leaving the home together. And then cameras throughout the city show them driving toward the area where Tyreek was killed. So the police tell Sheldon this, and he's like, okay. At 11:39 p.m., Sheldon can be seen returning home alone. Around that same time, a motorist discovers Tyreek's body and calls 911. Like Rachael DelTondo, Tyreek Pugh had been shot multiple times. 7 times. 5 of them in the skull. Within hours, investigators were questioning Sheldon Jeter again. Sheldon didn't ask for his lawyer. He was being quite open with them. He was interviewed 3 times, and for whatever reason, they did not like his answers, or they thought he was being inconsistent. One of the state troopers says, "This doesn't look good for you. It just doesn't." And Sheldon was like, "I'm telling you, I told you everything. I don't know how it can't look good for me if I told you the truth." Now, during this interview, detectives get a warrant to search Sheldon Jeter's home, and they find a gun under his mattress. According to State Police Crime Lab, it's the gun that shot Tyreek Pugh. Gunpowder residue was found on the steering wheel of the car that Sheldon Jeter was driving. When Aaron asks his uncle if he thinks that Sheldon is involved in Tyreek's death, his uncle says, "I don't see a motive. That's it. I just don't see a motive." So, Beaver County District Attorney David Lozier says, "I'm not going to comment on any motives, but we have DNA evidence and we have video." So, Sheldon's attorney says that prosecutors tried to get Sheldon to take a deal, but only witnesses were not allowed in the courtroom. He did not take the stand, but the jury was shown about 2 hours of police interviews. No motive was given, and after just a couple of hours of deliberation, the jury found then 23-year-old Sheldon Jeter, I mixed them together, guilty. And in Pennsylvania, first-degree murder carries a mandatory sentence of life without parole. And Sheldon Jeter's troubles may not be over just yet. 48 Hours learned that a secret Pennsylvania statewide grand jury has heard evidence in Rachel's murder. There was testimony brought before the grand jury involving Sheldon Jeter. The DA's office hasn't officially named a suspect or a person of interest, but certainly he has been made a focus of a lot of their efforts. Now, Frank was cleared of all suspicion, and he agreed to testify before that same grand jury. David Lozer confirmed that Frank was not a suspect in the murder of Rachael DelTondo, but would only say this about a possible suspect or charge in her death. We are pleased with the quality of evidence that we have, and will make an announcement when we believe we can win a case to the criminal standard of beyond a reasonable doubt. Shortly after losing her daughter, Elissa DelTondo predicted Rachel's killer would never be brought to justice. Still, the DelTondos pray for answers, and that their daughter is remembered, not for how she died, but for how she lived. Aaron asked her, "What do you want people to know about Rachael?" And Lisa replied, "I just want everyone to know she was a good person. She had a big heart. A big heart." Anyone with information on Rachael DelTondo's murder is asked to call the Beaver County Detective Bureau at 724-773-8569, and I will include this information in the description box down below so that you have it available to you. So, let's talk about this. I don't know what I think, guys. Part of me says, okay, he's in jail for a different murder that he may or may not have committed. He probably killed her, right? But I can't. Did he kill her because she didn't want to be with him? Did he kill her because she was dating his brother? Like, I don't have a clear-cut reason behind this. Like, it wasn't money. It wasn't, I mean, it could have been anger, I guess. I don't know. So like I said, solved, but unsolved. There's no one that has had any sort of charges against them for this crime. Do I think that Sheldon Jeter could have been involved? Yes. Do I think Frank could have been involved? Sure, he was mad too. I have no idea what happened to Rachel. I think it's strange that her friend dropped her off and she was like at the door getting ready to go in, but then they find her at the end of the driveway, struck several times. I remember seeing an article on this case, but there wasn't a lot of information at the time when it happened. And it's just terrifying to me. There's nothing more terrifying to me than being killed at your own home. Like, in your own driveway. You're supposed to be safe at home. guys hate those. So, anyway,